Okay, Molly. So I am so excited to be here with you and really to be touching on this topic. I mean, this is so needed right now. Maybe you can just talk a little bit about, what does it mean you are the key and what are we going to be learning about today?
Absolutely, yes. So, with everything going on, lots of fears surfacing. And something I think that both of us agree on is that we often look outside of ourselves for answers and power and to feel good. So, what we're going to be talking about today is why you are the key to where humanity goes in the future, what's going on with all of this craziness, all of these shifts, and giving you actual tools that you can have in your everyday life to help you feel powerful and take actions towards a better future. So, lots of good stuff going on today.
Yes, I love it. So let's dive into that first point. I mean, turning inward and what that even looks like. I would love for you to start off with that.
Yes, and that's something that I personally have been searching for my entire adult life, right? So, unfortunately, we live in a society at this moment that no longer teaches us how powerful we are, how much wisdom we have, how to access our intuition and what our bodies can do. We're not taught any of those things, unfortunately. So, a lot of us suffer because we're constantly looking outward, right? So, if we're not feeling loved enough or secure enough or pretty enough or healthy enough, we're always looking for the next partner, the next boss, the next health program, the next diet, just all these different things to make us feel good. When in reality, that's just setting ourselves up for failure because the only way you can feel good is starting from the inside out by being loved and giving it away, by feeling healthy and making choices that perpetuate that into your future. So turning inward is something that people talk a lot about, but don't give actual tools. So I personally struggled with what that even meant. Okay, well, you keep saying it. What do I do? So I'm really looking forward to sharing an actual process with everybody of how you can start turning inward and different tools that you can use to help you get to that bright future.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I know turning inward for me was very similar. I know for me, I would always do it naturally, and I didn't even know
Mhm.
I was doing it. I would speak to God in my own way. I would just be like, God, if there is a God, like wherever that is, just help me, just be with me. And I always knew there was this maybe like a presence or just like something watching over me ever since I was young. Like I was brought up to believe this like unity consciousness. So for me, turning inward, though, I hit a lot of self-worth issues. Like I was that
Mhm.
girl you were describing, the one who's constantly looking out. Like I would seek my power from the amount of money that I was making
Yeah.
or like what I was wearing and what I look like. And I had this deep seated resentment against myself because I didn't think that I was perfect enough.
Mhm.
And so turning inward for me, I think the biggest resistance that came up was just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to find there? Like when I turn inward, I'm just going to see all this self hatred. And I don't know if I can handle that. Like for you, when you turned inward, what was that experience like?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I completely understand that fear of, if I just don't look at it, I don't have to acknowledge all the bad stuff that's going on inside, right? So that's another reason we turn outward because we want to feel better, but we don't want to face the things that are making us feel bad, right? So we do
Hmm.
anything we can but that. So I spent many, many, many years doing that same exact thing, trying to find gurus and people to learn from and programs. And I would end up feeling even worse at the end of them than when I started because all the testimonials, all the different, oh, this person worked for me, this program worked for me. If you just sign up for this, you'll learn X, Y, and Z. And I never got anything out of these things. Right. So I ended up beating myself up thinking there must be something extremely wrong with me. Like
Hmm.
everybody else is doing better. Everybody else took this program. And yet here I am a failure. Right. So I completely relate with that whole just fear of looking in. But there came a point where I tried everything else. I tried everything else. And I remember just sitting on my couch one day being like, this cannot be it for me. This cannot be it for me. There's decades and decades of life. Everything I do with the best of intentions. I'm a human, so I've messed up many times, but always with good intentions. So there has to be something. And I just kind of, I don't want to say gave up or give in. I just kind of accepted that everything I've been trying isn't working, so something has to change. And that's when everything changed, because I stopped running. I stopped running. I stopped looking for somebody else to give me the answers. I finally said, I'm going to figure this out for me. And then I started journaling. And obviously, it's a very complex story, just like anybody's, but that's really where it started.
Yeah, yeah. I know, turning inward for me. Oh my gosh. Well, I think the biggest memory that comes up for me when I think about when I first started just meditating,
Mm,
I would experience these just places of unconditional love. And there was one experience that I had where it was just, oh my gosh, this is everything that I was seeking on the outside. All this love and appreciation and acceptance. I love where you talked about, like, you got to that point where you just like accepted. That was me
mm.
there. And it was interesting because that space was within myself. I wasn't doing, I was like sitting at home in my PJs. I think I had just like cried for 5 hours and was
As
sitting
you
there. And I had this experience of that unconditional love. And I realized in that moment that, wow, everything we seek on the outsides with is within us, and how powerful of a thought that is, that that cannot be taken away no matter what's going on the outside. And I think this is a good transition of, bringing us to where we are today. Like, Mal, is freaking, we're quarantined over here, like we're freaking on Long Island. So like,
right.
what do people do now, and like, what are you thinking about now?
Yes. So I think it's going to be really important for people to understand what is happening now. So what's happening now is a forced slowdown, right? So if you're not a spiritual person, you're just seeing businesses closing, you're just seeing people lose their jobs, you're just seeing people getting ill and going to the hospital. And so for those people, I recommend, zooming out, seeing the bigger picture, understanding that there is a reason for everything, even if we don't understand. And so for me, what's happening is basically in this forced slowdown, because we live in such like a fast-paced society, we now have the time and the opportunities to turn inward. Because before, we're running from job to job, or from job to hobby, to the gym, to friends, to drinks, to whatever. We, I guess in this society, we kind of define our success on how busy we are, right? So
Hmm.
we're just going, going, going. So with this forced slowdown, now we have the opportunity to take a moment and look around and say, wait, did I even like that job? Wait, was I making good choices for my health? Like, we have the opportunity to sit down and evaluate, right? So for anybody who's feeling scared or unsettled or feeling like this is the end of the world, it's the end of the world as we know it. And that is the best possible thing that could be happening to us right now. So what is happening is this world is trying to show us your power. It's trying to get us to turn inward, to see what Sherry and I have seen, that the power is within us, the answers are within us, and only ourselves can guide us. So it's wonderful to have coaches and to have friends and to have a community, but only you, only your gut, only your connection with God, as Sherry says. I always say my soul. We're all saying the same kind of message. Only that internal compass has the ability to guide you forward in the best way possible for you. Not to make the most money or not to, look the best. What's going to set you up in the future for the best possible life that you would never even imagine for yourself, right? So all of these big energy shifts that are happening are just opportunities for you to finally see your power. So that's why we're calling today, You Are the Key. Because not only is this an opportunity for you to look around your life and see what's working, what's not, you get to determine where humanity goes in the future. And if that's not badass, I don't know what is.
Right.
So that's what's happening.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. When I think about the emotional health, like everything you describe, like you are the key. I think people, I imagine just them now in that position where they're like, oh my God, now it's up to me. I have all this time. What do I
Mhm.
do with like they're living in a state of overwhelm. I feel it like
Ah,
on an
yeah,
energetic level. People are home and they're like, what are you supposed to do remote, And it's just, guys, just calm down, just breathe, like just breathe.
right.
I always look at things that happen. It's trouble. We're always going to meet trouble, but it's going to be that mindset. And where you talk about you are the key, I look at it being that mindset. Like, how can you bring this mindset of understanding that it's happening to us for a reason, and that there is an opportunity to learn and grow here, and
Mhm.
to find peace no matter where you are, no matter what's going on. I mean, I know folks that have lost jobs. I know folks like myself included, like your work situation somewhat stops, but then something else starts brewing since you're getting quiet. And you're like,
Yes,
wow, this is a great opportunity for me to pursue that passion that I've been putting on the wall, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. For you, Ma, when you think about how people can balance their emotional and mental health right now, because I think that's what's being brought to question, is people just don't know how to handle this. You know,
Yes.
maybe you can walk us through, like, what are some tools, or what can people do to move forward, you know?
Yes. So before I get to the actual step-by-step tools, because I'm really excited to share that, but I do want to share that the most important thing that's happening is that it's time for you to face those things you never wanted to face. Right. So that's where my deepest healing came in, when I finally stopped running from those things I didn't want to look at.
Mm.
So we let those things have power over us because we don't look at it, we don't evaluate it, we don't see what's going on. Is it true? How did this affect my life? We just kind of feel that pain and we push all of our energy into like pushing away that memory,
Mm.
right? So it's super important for you to understand it is very scary to go inward sometimes, especially if you've had traumatic things happen. So I am a trauma coach. That is what I do. It's some things that I've been through myself. So I completely understand what trauma can do to your mental health, your emotional state, all of that. But at this moment, if you have not worked through your trauma, big and small, whatever trauma means to you, it's always going to have power over you. And so for me, I was the definition of disempowered, right? So until I want to say probably about 2 years ago, anything could have my power. So I only got self-worth from doing well at a job. And if my boss was mad at me, my self-worth plummeted. I had zero boundaries, classic people pleaser, classic fixer, everything, right? And it's all because I did not have the courage to look at all of these things I didn't want to look at. But the moment I did, everything changed. And I'm not even saying like weeks later, months later, the moment that I finally said, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to journal about it or talk to somebody about it, instantly life changing. So if that's you, if you have something that you're just too scared to look at or too ashamed or any of those emotions, that's where you start. You dive
Mm.
right in.
Mm.
If you can, and definitely don't do it alone. Have somebody there that can help soothe you, calm you down, and help you see the truth of things. That's also very key.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like what you talk about, Ma. And I think that's why you're so good at what you do and helping people take those first couple of steps to really, feeling into some of that pain through trauma and releasing that trauma. So, like, I'm just imagining folks that might be watching this, like, everyone's gone through traumatic events,
Everyone,
and I
yes.
can I can just imagine the person or the woman who's watching with us and is like, how do I do that? Like, I don't know how to face my fears alone. Like, I don't know. So the good news is that there's folks like you, Mal, that are here to help throughout this journey. And I even think about what's happening in the world today. People are just so scared. And it's the work that we're going to be talking about, and it's the work that we have been talking about, going in. I'm a big believer in meditation and conscious breathing. People call it yoga, right? Call it whatever you want. Like, just breathe. Breathing is amazing. But for you, throughout this total change and transformation that we're seeing, how are you staying grounded? Like, what's working for you?
Yes, yes. So actually, and this is why I'm starting to talk more, because I'm actually very shy. I actually just reactivated my social media. Like, this is all new to me, right? So the way that I'm getting through this and actually gaining strength and trust in myself and the world and the plan and everything that's happening is because I have followed my gut up to this point. So in my past, I want to say I've had probably about 40 jobs. The shortest one I was at for, I believe, about a month. any time my gut told me it's time to leave, this person doesn't respect you, something's not right here. Sometimes I would, agonize over it. No, I don't want to leave again. People are going to judge me, blah, blah, blah. But I did it anyway. I would leave, find a new job immediately. So that always worked out for me. In the past few months, I used to be a kickboxing instructor. I left that a while ago. I was dying to get back into a studio. None of the studios were working out for me. I tried and tried. I was like, here's my money, but their schedule didn't work. The people didn't get back to me. All these different things kept happening. So I bought my own bag for home, right? So all of these things just kind of, and those are just two examples, but all of these different things lined up for me because I followed my gut, even if it didn't make sense, right? So I have a very small place. So putting this kickboxing bag outside is like this big eyesore. And at the time I was like, this is just annoying. Like, why did I do this? And now I'm here quarantined at home, kickboxing my little heart out, so I'm staying grounded because I see a pattern of me trusting myself, sometimes on the butt of people's jokes, because, I live in a way that's not typically, seen by other people, where you just kind of trust your gut and go with it. And that made me feel a little bad about myself sometimes, but I stuck with it anyway. And here I am, perfectly set up to ride this out, and not only ride this out, but thrive, talk to people, soothe other people, make them feel good, and not just some bullshit that I'm like, oh, love and light. Like, no, I've gone through it. I've built my way back through depression and anxiety. I crawled out of that hole. Now I'm building my business, and it's all because I trusted my gut. So I'm not saying these things to you to just, foo away all the problems. No, if you trust your gut, any problem that comes your way, you are going to be able to work through, whether it's a worldwide pandemic or, you can't find your shoe. It doesn't matter what the problem is. If you can trust your gut, you're going to be fine. So that's really how I'm staying strong. I can look back and see all the different ways I trust my gut and how it worked out. So any self-doubt that comes up, nope, I turn that away, because it's always led me right if I follow my gut. Always.
Yeah. And I love that. I remember back in 2014, 2015, when I was going through my type of hell, I'd call it. It's probably what some people are experiencing right now, where you just don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're
Right.
doing. You don't know what's happening. You don't know how you got there. Like, I know I went on LinkedIn, and I most recently went on LinkedIn. And I saw so many people that I'm connected with, just like, I lost my job. And it fascinates me, because we all go through this level of pain. And what I've considered some of the darkest moments have also become some of the quietest moments, AKA the name of my podcast, because it's throughout those dark moments and those quiet moments that we get so clear on what's most important to us. And we get so clear that we can get through it. Sometimes it does take us hitting our knees or finding, a place where it is a bit of a hell. It doesn't need to be like that, but sometimes that's what is required for us to actually turn in, because we're so used to turning out. When I think about tools, and I think about some of the tools that you're going to share with us today, they've been instrumental in my life. You've helped me with this, but how have they impacted your life? Before we get into it, maybe you can talk to us just a little bit about your journey, and that way it'll really help us understand, like, wow, these tools really work.
Sure. Yes. So I have always been spiritual, and I think I've always been holistic. I majored in environmental stuff. So I've always been like a little hippie. That's always been my thing. But so people just assumed I was into yoga and meditation and all these things. And I resisted like you could not get me to meditate. You couldn't get me to yoga, like nothing. And it's just so funny that people always assume that that's the way that you go. So I resisted and resisted years, right? And it was during those years where I would sign up for any free webinar I could, any program, all of those different things. But I never really did the work, so I paid the money, I signed up for the programs, I did all these things, and I was kidding myself. I was telling myself I was doing it. But there was just no real commitment, because I think at that time I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to really do the work. And then, after years and years of bouncing around, trying to find all these people, all these communities, and always blaming them for being wrong or not a good fit when it was really me, I finally decided, like, I I'm worth it, right? So I resisted also hiring people. I resisted spending real money. So I hired a coach called Carrie Cardozo. She is absolutely amazing. And everything she taught me was life changing. So in this program, and an important key to that is a lot of programs try to make you like a cookie cutter type person. Like if you just do steps X, Y, and Z, you'll be good. And that's not how healing works, because every single person is different. If you and I went through the same exact thing, we would react differently potentially, because we had different upbringings, different cultures, different experiences, different everything. All these different factors really depend. Well, I guess, what am I saying? Really affect the outcome. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. So I finally got serious enough about my own healing to pay good money for a real coach who didn't try and force me into a cookie cutter program. She taught how to turn inward, how to rely on yourself, not rely on her, which is, I think, something that's very important to both of us, you know, that independence. And that's when I actually did start meditating. So I resisted all those years and nothing changed. I started meditating. And that really, I think, was the biggest life changer, because I have dozens of journals, dozens. But if all you do is journal and you don't energetically release those things, they still stick around and they still affect you. And they're still a part of your being, even if it's not this physical body. Right? So we are more than just this physical body. So meditation is something I resisted because I didn't want to be a woo-woo person. I don't want to be considered, you know, a voodoo. I've been called voodoo, witch, all these different things. I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted to be different. And now I see that it doesn't matter how people perceive me. So meditating works for me. Journaling works for me. It's really like an all-encompassing thing you have to do to get true, real healing. You have to acknowledge the problems. You have to release them. You have to make different choices. You have to continually work on things. It's never just once and done. So that was a big learning curve for me. And I'm really hoping that helps some people out there who think it's once and done, or think, you know, that all they have to do is sign up for a program. It's not how it works. It is continuous. Energy work is required. It's a lot of bravery, a lot of courage, and a lot of work. A lot of work.
Yeah. It's the mental and spiritual work, you know, like we get up and we shower and we brush our teeth every morning physically to keep ourselves clean, yet we don't meditate and we don't give ourselves to just clean ourselves from emotional residue and from past pain. We're carrying the past with us and we're having the same negative thoughts, 90% negative. And we're sometimes seeing the same people and expecting to get the same things. And we just live in this routine. And then something like coronavirus happens. And then
Right.
you find yourself and you're like, whoa, like, what was I do? Some people are even probably awakening right now.
Yes.
And you're forced to stay home. So like, I love where you talk about meditation. And I love where you mentioned journaling, because you know, we can't discount journaling. Journaling's amazing. However, when you look at the power of meditation, it's really a tool to help us get in connection with ourselves. And that's who we're so much seeking, is ourselves and that love for ourselves. So when we go to doctors and we look for medication, or we go to alcohol and drugs and try and reach that instant gratification, you can reach that feeling wherever you are in the world right now, today, like through meditation. And I love your transparency about that resistance.
Oh, for sure.
I've been called a cult leader by my own brothers, like, you know, so it's like, and I have to, it's funny because when you reach this level within yourself where it's, for me, it was that experience of just complete acceptance and complete love, where I realized in that moment, like, okay, Cher, it's okay if you don't love yourself, something else out there does. And that feeling that does love you more than you love yourself is going to help you regain love for yourself. Just keep coming back to that source to feed. And meditation is how we feed. It's how we fill up our love tank, you know, like, oh my gosh. So we could probably go on and on about meditation
All day.
you know, but you have some amazing information that I know you want to share. So I want to get quiet and let you, you know, share with us some of those things.
Yes. So before I get it, I feel like I've said that 6 times already, but one main thing that really helps me, because when I first started out doing this work, I also, had a lot of self-loathing, which obviously means not a lot of self-love. And I believed that I had to build up my self-love, which I think is still true. But the way to look at it that really helped me was, the love is there. I have to uncover it. So, what is blocking my self love? So, that would be the trauma, the trust issues from the trauma, the bitterness, so like
Mhm.
it really helped me to be able to say, like, okay, no, I don't need to rebuild the love. The love has never left. I just have to take off these layers that are blocking it. So I think that's a key point that I want anyone listening to remember as I go through these tools. But so this is a really great process to really start your journey turning inward, right? Because this is designed to be like foundational. So really step one, right? So, and I have them written down because I think it's very important. I don't want to miss anything, right?
I
Okay,
love it.
so I'm also very organized. So here's where you start. So first, get a journal, right? And I personally like having a journal for, doing this kind of work where you're uncovering problems, or, if you wake up in a bad mood and you just need to like dump some emotion on a page. I like to keep that kind of stuff separate from my the good things, the manifesting, the happiness, the plans for the future, the business stuff. I like to keep those two things separate. So not necessary, but that's how I like to do it. So get yourself a journal that's dedicated solely to digging in, acknowledging these problems, and holding that energy of all the things that you're going to uncover, right? So step one in this process is to sit down and ask yourself, what problems am I dealing with right now? And that's going to be super important, because a lot of times we just go on autopilot through our whole day of just get up, get ready, go to work, or go to the couch now, I guess. We just go through our day without ever stopping. And we just kind of keep going on rants of, oh, this person cut me off. This person was rude. This person didn't text me. And we just kind of go through, our brains are just like these big cycles of everybody who's done us wrong and why we deserve better, right? So to sit down and actually write out what your problems are, you can see them on paper, right? And I want you to just free write. So don't filter, don't judge whatever comes up. Make these problems big and small. So a problem I'm having, oh no, I didn't get lemon for my water this week. I forgot to get lemons. That's a problem that might irritate you. Or I don't know how I'm going to pay my car bills. So really any amount of problem that you have, write it down and get super honest with yourself. Just let it all out there. This is a place where you can be 100% yourself. So I know a lot of us really struggle with opening up, being vulnerable, or admitting what we're going through. This is for your eyes only. So do not censor yourself. And if you feel that resistance, just kind of sit with it and then say, this is safe anyway. I'm going to keep writing. Okay, so number 2, I want you to look at that list after you've written it and notice any patterns or any commonalities. So to be totally transparent, just as an example, when I did this exercise, and it's not a once and done, but when I first did this, I noticed that many of my problems were all about other people and how they made me feel. So this person treats me like a child, and that makes me angry. This person treats me like I'm not valuable, and that makes me feel this. So I realized that once again, can be very disempowered because I allow others to dictate how I feel. So really look through your list and see, are there any patterns? Do you have a pattern of giving away your power? Do you have a pattern of, giving yourself less than you deserve? Just really look for anything that kind of makes sense in those problems, because that's a big key as well. So after you find any commonalities or any patterns, I want you to write out each problem. So at the top of the list, and then underneath that, write out how this makes you feel. So if, for my example, this person treats me like a child, that makes me feel angry because I'm a grown ass adult. That makes me feel small because that makes me feel like I'm not trusted, like I'm not valued, like I'm not smart enough. So really, again, do not censor yourself. Write out any emotion that comes to mind in relation to that problem, and give yourself enough space to just write and write and write. And if only 1 or 2 emotions come up, that's fine too. Okay. Whatever happens for you, trust it and go with it. Okay. So after you find how each of those makes you feel, this is the biggest one, I would say. So for each problem that you have, I want you to look at that problem and ask yourself, what experience would having this make me feel? So, for example, what experience would having this person treat me like an adult make me feel? So you want to figure out, why does it make you angry? Why does it upset you? What are you missing from this problem? What are you missing in your life that it affects you in such a way? So if this person treated me like an adult, how would that make me feel? That would make me feel secure in myself. That would make me feel like I can be trusted to make decisions. That would make me feel very secure within myself. So really go through each of these and figure out, what experience am I missing when this person or this situation comes up in my life? And that I really want you to spend some time on. So I know that might be a bit confusing, but again, we are trying to figure out what you need in your life, because this new way of being is actually all about intuition, trusting yourself, faith, compassion. We're getting away from the more masculine logic and grind 24/7 and work while they sleep. Like, we're getting away from that push, that analyzing, that go, go, go energy. And this new way of being, if you so choose, is going to be more about intuition, figuring out how you can fill yourself up and all of that. So that's going to be very key for you to recognize why you are so triggered by these things. The next one is probably the most fun one, I would say. So the next question you ask yourself is, how can I give that experience I want to myself? So with my example, somebody makes me feel like a child, that makes me feel upset and untrustworthy and small. I can give that to myself by trusting myself in my decisions, setting up boundaries, really putting myself in situations where I'm treated like an adult. I can wear nicer clothes. I can do my hair and makeup, just things that, quote unquote, adults do. And that's up for interpretation. That's up for any kind of fun you want to have. How can I give myself what I'm missing? And after that, I want you to really get honest with yourself and take a look at all of these things that you've written out, all of the problems, the emotions, what you're missing, how you can give it to yourself, and just notice, what is trying to get my attention, right? So pain and problems are not failures. They're not indicators that you are failing. They are indicators that you have a misperception about yourself in some way. Right? So if I have this perception that this person treats me like a child and that makes me angry and it's their fault, that's my misperception. It's their fault for making me feel that way. False. The misperception is, I'm allowing them to make me feel this way. And anytime I'm around this person, I revert back to old habits that I've outgrown years ago. And yet here I am blaming this person and their actions, which I cannot control, for my misery, for my anger, for my lack of boundaries, right? So all of these problems that you are going to be working through, because that's the whole point of this, are really about getting to, what am I misperceiving? What am I believing that is not true or no longer true? How am I living in a way that's completely opposite my values? So keep those words in mind, my values, my alignment, my goals. Keep all of that in mind as you're going through this, because this exercise is a super, super powerful way to recognize where you're giving away your power, how you can regain that almost immediately. As soon as you start doing this, you can immediately regain your power by not allowing outside situations and people to control what you do. But you can't do that unless you recognize, why am I upset? How am I not loving myself properly? How am I giving people power over me? So this is a really great and in-depth exercise that's going to really help jumpstart your new belief, new power, newfound realization that you are the key, right? So I know this is a lot. I do know it's a lot.
I love it.
But that's the key. So I'm not about giving you just like one little thing and then hope you come back and pay me. Not one bit. If this is overwhelming, I do apologize for that. But I am all about giving as much information as I possibly can, because my goal, and I'm sure Sherry's goal, is the same. We want you to be independent. We want you to rely on yourself. So if we only give like a few little things and then force you to pay us to come back, that's that's a whole different way of being. So take this exercise, go really in depth with it, and then if you feel like something of value and you want to keep continuing, that's when we talk. But I am super excited to hear how, this kind of exercise affects your listeners, the people who hear this, because this changed my life because it gave me my power back. And I didn't even know I was giving it away.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Molly. I can't begin to describe how clear you presented this in a way where it was very clear. Like we know exactly what we've got to do. We know exactly the questions that we can ask ourselves. And what you described to me is self-sufficiency, right? Like we are all self-sufficient people. And sometimes we forget that those that are outside of us don't have any control, but they are going to behave in a way. And we have an opportunity to look at the mindset, look at the belief of what judgment do we have there. I found this exercise so insightful for a couple different reasons. One, the first thing I thought of was something an executive coach said to me back when I was in a tech company. And it was all around feedback. And what you described is, I notice this. So there's a problem. Obviously, something might happen at work, something might happen with someone, you're having an issue with. And the way you can communicate with them is, I noticed that you said X, Y, and Z, and I felt this way. I just want to, make it known to you that this is how I feel. So maybe you have that awareness not to do it again. And what you're allowing us to do here is identify the problem, find what do we observe there? What are we noticing? Where are the patterns, like you mentioned? And then having that ability to switch, what do you want to experience? How can you experience that right now instead of delaying it or feeling like, they have to change in order for you to feel a certain way? I mean, oh my gosh, like it's constant misery. We become a slave to
Yes.
others. I mean, I can't thank you enough. And when you think about these different questions, was there any question that you particularly found like extremely insightful for yourself?
Yes. So I honestly finding the commonalities, finding the patterns, because I have always been very independent. I've always been a very like do it yourself kind of person. And, nobody's going to stop me and I have everything it takes. Like that's always kind of been my mindset. Right. So it was kind of jarring to me to know that that's how I consciously presented myself. But when I sat down and did this, how many times I give like excuses and I feel like a victim and, oh no, it's their fault. It's not my fault. I've done everything right. So we can have this, this duality within us where we think we're one way, but then when we sit down and do the work, we can see that in reality, we've been presenting ourselves and acting in a different way. So for me, and that sounds unpleasant. And I have to admit, obviously seeing our own misperceptions can be a bit unsettling. But for me, that mindset of nothing's going to stop me tied in perfectly, because once I realized I'm my biggest problem, I was like, well, I'm not going to let me stop me. That's absurd. Right. So then
Mm-hmm.
I was able to then go ahead and take responsibility, get very honest with myself, and do what needed to be done. And I do think that's what most people shy away from. They don't want to see where they've gone wrong. They don't want to see, where they're the problem. They don't want to see where they need to do some work. So for me, that was the biggest one because it was my ticket to freedom, to be honest.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I love journaling for this exact type of reason with these types of questions that just send you on a catapult inside yourself and you're very inquisitive and you become self-reflective. And for me, what I've noticed, and I realized it when I was 16, when I had an eating disorder, the thoughts that would come up when I'd like look at myself in the mirror. So anyone that's done mirror work knows what I'm talking about,
Yep.
because you're staring at the mirror and next thing you know, you've got like every single angry voice, like you're ugly, you're fat, you're dumb, you're this, you're that. And I mean, without this type of work, without the meditation, without the breathing, how can we even expect ourselves to be able to operate at the level that we truly can? Like when you think, Molly, back to when you first started on this journey, like, is there anything you wish you knew then that you know now?
Oh my gosh, yes. I would say the biggest one is this work helped me to see that triggers that come up, you know, when you get like super upset about something out of nowhere, like it's just that immediate reaction. I used to drown in those, and then it would ruin my whole day, and then I would get into fights, and like, you know, like it just it controlled everything I did. So what I know now is when you get upset by something, that's an opportunity to know that something needs to be healed, something needs to be shifted. So like I said, I used to, and I don't want to use the word volatile, but I used to like be very triggered, and then I would take that out on everybody, right? So now when I get triggered, you know, I still catch myself, you know, I still, you know, I'm a human, so I'll still let it get a little too far sometimes, but then I'll have the ability to be like, okay, wait, like I'm clearly very upset. What could possibly be going on inside that's making me feel this way? Because clearly something needs to change, or else I wouldn't be acting like a raving lunatic right now. So what's going on? Right. And a perfect example of that is I went to a fitness expo actually at the beginning of the month. And I am not super into fitness. I do kickboxing, but it's only because I had a lot of rage. You couldn't get me to exercise before. But so I went to this fitness expo because my boyfriend is an amateur bodybuilder, natural. And so we were surrounded by all these fit, beautiful women who had perfect bodies. And I was so upset, like just like so insecure. And then I would snap at my boyfriend. And before I did this work, I would have ruined the entire trip because we flew there. So I would have ruined the entire trip just because I was insecure that I didn't feel good enough. But after having these tools in my hand, I was able to take a step back and be like, okay, wait, like, why am I freaking out? Oh, I feel like I'm not as good. I'm not as good as her, or she has a better body than me. And I think he's looking and blah, blah, blah. And I would journal it out and be like, this is crazy. I don't want to believe this. I want to believe that my body is just as good as theirs, and it's strong and it's beautiful and blah, blah, blah. And then I was able to go on with my day and have a great time and not fight with him and not look like an idiot, you know? So I really wish I had known back then that when you get upset by somebody or something, that doesn't need to ruin your whole day. You can take that opportunity to learn about yourself and heal deeper. So it's really an opportunity. It's not somebody treating you badly. It's an opportunity that this world is bringing you so you can grow in your potential, so you can expand, so you can let go of past things that no longer fit you.
Mm, I can resonate with that so much. And I think about my own journey, and there's so many moments where we can stay stuck in our ways and say, no, I feel this way, and this is why I'm going to justify why I'm going to be mean to this person. Like, I remember it got to the point in one of my jobs, even I had never been in a situation like it, where I was getting emotionally triggered by people, because when I'd enter a room and I'd sit next to them, or I'd be around them, I would see the past and all these really poor errors that they made. And in
Mm,
that moment, I would be so angry. I never gave myself space to heal. And I would constantly show up to that room just with this corrupt way of looking at people. And when we don't do this inner work, we don't forgive. And I
mm,
think forgiveness is so powerful. I think the emotional discipline it takes to know that there's something wrong. I mean, for me, when I think back to what was something that I wish I knew, for me, I tell myself, like, Sherry, stop acting so tough.
oh,
Because
yeah.
and I still do it today. And I think this is advice I've given my former self and myself right now is I grew up one of six, and I have five older brothers, and I was always brought up to be tough, like if
Mhm.
and have the boundaries, and like I'm a woman of high integrity. And so if I don't see something, I'm going to speak up. But there's points that I've reached in my career, looking back at jobs that I've taken, in relationships, where I was just like, Sherry, there's something wrong with you, and you need to toughen up. toughen up and suck it up and get through this. And it was so like abusive, self-abusive looking back now. And when I see
Yes.
that thought come up, I have this beautiful like compassion for myself. And it's where you talked about the work doesn't end. It doesn't, because every moment we're challenged again. And
Yes.
every single day we're going to meet new people. So I think, I'd be very curious to see like what's really lighting you up today, Ma, and what would be some words that you would leave our listeners with after all that we talked
Right.
about, but like anything else that you think has really helped you that might really help them.
Yes. So what's really lighting me up right now is just allowing myself to be seen. So like I said in the beginning, I usually hide. I didn't like social media. Um, it's a whole new way of being for me. So for all these people who are starting at the beginning, we're in the same boat, just at a different level, I would say. So doing this kind of thing, like speaking and being out there and trying to, just be a positive force on social media for people, that's a whole new thing for me. So that's actually, it's terrifying because like I said, that's one of the things I'm still working through, being seen, but I'm doing it. And I'm doing it because I know what I've learned is not just for me, right? So my journey, all this time, I thought it was for me. And now that all of this is happening and I'm looking at how I'm handling it and how I have peace and how I'm okay and how I don't have fear. And I know that even though I have no idea what's going to happen, like not one, even in my own job, my own business, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm still okay with that because I trust myself. Um, I just think it's very important for people to know that the fear doesn't go away.
Mm.
It's up to you to decide that you are worth it, decide that you have something to give, right? So this message might not resonate with everybody, but it's going to resonate with somebody, right? And so that's enough to know, for me to put myself out there. So that's what's lighting me up. I always face my fear, go straight into it, and that involves speaking and being vulnerable and positioning myself as a leader, when on the inside I'm like, who the hell am I to be doing this? Well, I have a lot of experience and I have a lot of knowledge and I have a lot of wisdom and I want to share it, right? So that's what's lighting me up, kind of having that internal battle with myself.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
Amazing. Amazing. No, I just look at you, Molly, and I love where you talk about, and you're so transparent about like, I'm ready to be seen, because that's what I pray to God for. Who bring me people that want to be seen, and I will put them out there and I will bring you to the world and show you to the world. Because when we stay stuck in our houses, which is what's happening now, for those, we're all stuck in our houses on Long Island. Um, when you reach this point where you start to realize like you know more than you think you know, if you have any confidence at all, this is the time to lean into that and know that when you put yourself out there, it's not like we're unsupported. I think so many people get scared of like, well, what if I put myself out there and like it doesn't go anywhere? Or like, what are people going to think of me? It's got nothing to do with that, because you're here as a light worker to spread a message. It's your experience. And we know on this earth that other people have experienced trauma and pain and sadness. Anyone that's dealt with depression and bipolar and all of these different things that come up throughout our journey, they don't define us. But I love how, you are fearless and your confidence, and you remind me of this goddess rising. And I just want to say like, it's amazing to see, and I acknowledge it. And I know this is not the last time we'll be coming together, because you have so much incredible, I mean, this is freaking amazing stuff that you've shared with us. It's like thousands of dollars worth of stuff right here. So it's just amazing because you're so forthgiving. You're like, guys, I've done it. I've been there. I know what it's like, and I'm ready to walk with you. So it's just been
Oh,
so fun to do this with you, Mal. I think my last words would be, anyone that is looking to get in touch with Molly, Mal, where can they reach you before you go?
sure. Yes. So my website is bethebalancehealing.com. Let's leave it at that. I was actually just going to give out my cell phone number. I shouldn't do that.
You could do social though. Like I love being like, find me on Facebook,
That's true. Yes. I actually forgot. So yeah, you can find me as Molly Wentzel on Facebook, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm just getting back onto these platforms besides LinkedIn. So yeah, so find me and I'll be putting out, I'm going to try and do several days a week of things like this, where it's not so much maybe all tools, but also just things to get you thinking, things to encourage you. I wrote something today about how I used to be in forestry and there's like trees covered in vines, and my whole job used to be cutting off those vines. And that's exactly what we're doing with healing, right? So imagine each vine as being one layer. You know, so if you had a traumatic experience, one vine would be trust issues, one would be bitterness, one would be depression. And we don't beat ourselves up when we don't get rid of all of them at once, because that's just insane. That's so much work that we have to do. So yeah, find me on Facebook. I'm going to be putting out all these, you know, inspirational tools. And the last thing I would say is just be courageous and know that no matter what you find inside, you're going to be okay, because you always have been up to this point.
Mm. Oh, Mal, I thank you so much for joining. This is my little namaste. Namaste pose. Yeah, thank you for all this wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. And we're going to do this again. I mean, I had so much fun. Guys, if you've had fun, make sure you find Molly, like, comment, share this with anyone that you think this could benefit. And we'll be seeing everybody soon.
Yes, thank you.